Hello, everyone, and welcome to One Control Port Podcast, episode 193. Benjamin Yoder here today to not tell you that much about any video games I've been playing, because I haven't been playing all that much. I've been a little busy this week, but there's a lot of news stories this week, so I think we'll have plenty to talk about. One thing I have been playing, and if you watched the stream, I think a few weeks ago at this point, I put a little bit of time into a game on the PlayStation called Megatudo 2096, which is basically a mech, kind of arena fighter, and I have played it off and on in the past, just kind of picking it up and putting a little bit of time into it, but I really want to sit down and kind of commit to it and give it the time it needs for me to kind of understand what's going on with it. And it's kind of interesting because it's when it comes to like button inputs and what you're doing, it's actually a fairly simple kind of fighting game. You essentially have your mech. You can switch between like a gun and a melee weapon, and then depending on the mech you choose, you know, your 4 or 5 specials that you have, where you basically put in like a Street Fighter style input, can either activate a ranged attack or a short ranged attack kind of thing, or a melee attack, I guess. But when you're using those specials, you can actually kind of move while you're using this. This is something I didn't really notice while I was streaming it last time, where you can basically like slide around while a special is activating. So you can kind of think of it of like when you're using a Hadouken, like a Street Fighter, you're able to like move left and right still while you're still, you know, animating that Hadouken and everything. So it's kind of interesting because you can do things like basically have a move that has like a bit of a like charge up to it. Like one of the characters, I think her name's Hellbride or something, has like this kind of twirling spin attack kind of thing, but it takes a little while to get going. So you can kind of, you know, stand back first, activate it, and then kind of start to slide forward, and then like go up in the air and hit the enemy while you're sliding into them, kind of thing with that special. So it's kind of interesting that you have this like extra movement control while you're doing those attacks. It is a game that I feel like something doesn't feel quite right when it comes to like hitboxes and things like that. Particularly with the melee attacks. When you melee, it just always feels like something's just kind of off, unfortunately. So I don't know what it is with that. And I kind of feel like the ranged attack characters just kind of inherently have an advantage because they have the ability to just kind of slide around and shoot their ranged cannons and things like that, fairly safely. It's pretty hard to close in on enemies who are just like pelting you with shots all the time. So I guess the one thing that's kind of set up as a preventative of just like you spamming it all the time is there's a fuel system. So essentially when you use specials, it burns away some of your mech's fuel, but your fuel starts to fill up again immediately. So I guess it's like an auto recover time. I don't know if it's based off like certain attacks you do or anything like that. But it seems like maybe kind of a straightforward like special meter in like a fighting game. But if you run out of it, you can't do any specials at all. You just gotta use your standard melee attacks. I did find when I was using a lot of range attack specials that those don't, at least on Hellbride, don't seem to burn enough fuel to really matter that much. So I was able to kind of just slide around and keep spamming the range special. And even if you do run out of fuel, you do have like your gun, so you can just do like the normal ranged attacks whenever you need to as well. So I don't know, it's got a nice look to it though. It's the I don't think the mechs have any kind of like textures done on them. I think they're just like flat shaded polygons, so they stand out quite a bit in the game. So I do like that a lot, but there is a lot of like visual details that kind of mess up when you're like in the environment, being a PlayStation game, the camera positioning, things like that. I think it's like the Z axis stuff, like doesn't work quite right. And I've definitely noticed times where like some texture work seems to kind of glitch out at certain parts of the screen. Don't know if that's something to do with me playing on a PlayStation 2 or if that has something to do with just the game itself. I might go back and put it into a PS1 and see, how the game runs and if there's any issues, because one thing I did notice where with people playing on emulator is that the game runs too fast on emulator. So it moves way faster than it really should on emulator. So I'm not sure if the PS2 itself is affecting the game speed or anything like that. I'm not sure if there's any cases where like a PS2 would run a game better per se. I'm not aware of any, at least, but I can't say for sure. maybe, I don't know. Well, I'll sit down and take a look at it, and then if it's worth mentioning, I'll mention it in the. I'm sure I'll do a casual review if I played enough to feel good about it. The other thing I did that's not game playing is I did go ahead and try to reorganize my game collection. If you're watching the video version on YouTube, you will notice that my shelf here has some significant gaps in it. So I've been running out of shelf space for my games, and ever since I built out kind of this little like living area over here, I kind of haven't really had a lot of other room to expand. I thought of one way I could add like another shelf into like my living room, but I don't know. Like, do I really want? I technically have like I have a 2-section shelf behind me, and then like there's a 3-section shelf over against the wall over here, and then I have a set of cubes that hold consoles over here, and then I have my desk area in front of me, and then to the right of me there's also more consoles and stuff. So it's just like, at some point, like, what is the ratio that is acceptable amount of video games in your living room when you're using your living room as your office and things like that? Because I don't really have like when I play games, it's at my desk here, even when I'm not streaming. That's just how I have my setup. So when I'm playing a game, it's always on a computer monitor, no matter what. And I have behind me, I have a door that leads into the mansion that I live in. The one other bedroom in my apartment, or the one other room in my apartment, which is my bedroom. But it's really, I don't know what to do with bedrooms, to be honest with you. It's become kind of a storage facility. It's like a bed, and then there's just like 3 TVs, because I have added a CRT TV that I picked up a long time ago that I don't think I really need anymore, or at least I think I'd rather have a smaller CRT, and I don't know if I need to really hold on to that one. I mainly got that one because it was free, and it's like 24 or 25 inches, so it's not huge, but it's still big. It sits on a cart because I don't know, like I don't know how else to move it around reasonably. And it made sense when I didn't have a frame Meister, and my TV didn't work well when it came to anything that was under 480p, like 480i and 240p on my TV my TV was not having it. And that was before I was willing to commit to investing in an upscaler. So I just got like a cheap CRT for I think like $15 or something like that, or maybe even cheaper. So I don't know, that CRT, I've been holding on to it because I'm like, what if I want to play a light gun game? But I don't even have a light gun or any games that have a light gun. So I feel like maybe the real answer is get rid of that CRT for now, and then I'll worry about the CRT if I ever get a light gun game that I feel absolutely that I need to play. so yeah. But anyway, so to get back to the game collection stuff though, I basically tried to separate my games from games I've beaten and games I have not beaten, and leaving the games I have not beaten in my living room, and then storing the games I have beaten in a drawer under my bed. And unfortunately, or it's actually 2 drawers, but unfortunately there was not enough space in those drawers, so I'm not really sure what I want to do yet. I think the real answer is I just need to figure out what I need to do with my bedroom first, because then once I've kind of reorganized that and figured out what I'm done in there, I can figure out more storage solutions, because I think I like having games in the living room, but I like to have the games that I am going to interact with, and that's most likely going to be games that I'm haven't played through or haven't beaten. There's definitely cases where I want like ease of access to whatever, when we have an extra 20 minutes in the stream, like I don't know what we're gonna do. I guess we're gonna put in this copy of what's a video game that I have that I've beaten that I, like is completely random. I don't know. Fudu Park. We're going to stream some Fudu Park for 10 minutes. I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to go get Fudu Park without too much trouble. So it was kind of like why I thought the drawers on my desk would be good, because I could just slide it out, pick it up, and take it out. But yeah, I'll just have to kind of rethink about it. The hard thing is I just don't want it to be where I'm storing games in a way that's very difficult for me to access them, because at that point, I think that might be more annoying than useful, especially when I frequently am switching out consoles, because sometimes I just need footage for a video. Maybe it's like, even 5 seconds of footage, but like if I can just get my own footage rather than having to sit there and source somebody else for that, and I can capture, exactly what I'm talking about, that's always the easiest thing to do. So I'll just have to do a little bit of thinking about that. I think I've been thinking about reorganizing how I handle my consoles as well. So I might first focus on that. Because if I figure out how I want to handle my consoles in my living room, there's the potential that I could remove the consoles that are by my other shelf, or that wet storage thing that are by the other shelf, and then put another shelf there. I don't know if I want that, but it's a potential option. Just thinking about it. So yeah, that's been kind of my week outside of other life things that I've been doing. I can't think of anything else that we did otherwise. I did. But yeah, so let's get into game news here. A couple things that I actually was somewhat interested in. Republic Commando, I think it's the Star Wars game. That was a Xbox and PC first-person tactical shooter that was released. That is apparently coming to the Nintendo Switch. I don't think it's been officially announced at this point, but people did some data mining and found it on there. I had thought that game re-released at some point, and it must be on like Steam or GOG or something, because when I looked into the wiki page of what other consoles that game was on, I could only find PC and the original Xbox. So I was like, oh, I was surprised that it hadn't been ported already. I always hear really good things about it. Like it's kind of like a cult classic kind of thing. And I like Star Wars games. I don't care for Star Wars movies very much, but I like Rogue Squadron. Maybe that's the one Star Wars game I like. Or specifically Rogue Squadron 2. I played Rogue Squadron 3 as well, but there's definitely problems with Rogue Squadron 3. But I do like Star Wars games, and I like Star Wars games, or I like games. Well, when I think of games like that specifically, I want it to usually be about a character who is like not really a part of the main franchise story or whatever. Preferably, so having being just a random soldier, I think is a fun thing, and I like squad based shooter stuff. I think there was an online multiplayer mode for that game. But I don't remember if it was like you play through the campaign in online multiplayer, or if it was just like, here's a set of missions you can do if you want to, kind of thing. So anyways, I think I'm interested in that. Whether or not I will play it on Switch, I think is another question. If I can find it cheap on the original Xbox, if I'm going to play it alone, I'll probably just get it on the original Xbox. If I find somebody else to play it with, I might get it on PC or Switch. I would imagine if I played it with anybody, it would be on PC. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I think that's cool that they're bringing it forward, though. One weird news story this week was the reintroduction of 6 Days in Fallujah. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but 6 Days in Fallujah was like this old canceled modern shooter from I think 2009, 2008, 2009. It was kind of late 2000s. Around the time Call of Duty was kind of, I guess you could say at its peak to some degree. I don't know if that. I would say peak in terms of interest. I don't know if peak in terms of sales numbers per se. I feel like Call of Duty has become just kind of like a quiet juggernaut to some extent. Like there's definitely people who talk about Call of Duty, but I don't feel like it has quite the fervor it used to have in the more traditional gaming audience. But I think it definitely has its reach, obviously outside of the sphere that we're in, kind of thing, right? But yeah, so I don't really know what this is, because they canceled the game. I don't know how far along they were, and in the news post they post about the game, they said they're creating a new game, but they said that they're like picking up from where they left off with the previous canceled game. So I don't know if that means that they are taking the original game and cleaning it up, and then maybe also putting new layers on the graphics and things like that. Or if it means we are creating a new game from the ground up, inspired from the design docs of 6 Days in Fallujah. I couldn't figure that out from the news post that they posted up. And unfortunately, there's no gameplay in the trailer. It was just a bunch of soldiers running around. If I recall correctly, at the time it was canceled due to some controversy about it being I think a fairly recent conflict. And I think, by maybe late 2000s, there might have been some feelings that maybe we shouldn't do a game about that very specific event that happened at that time. I don't really know for sure, but I think there are people who weren't particularly happy about it. I don't know if that was 100% what caused it to get canceled, but I believe that was something that came up at the time when it was coming out. So anyways, there's nothing else to really say about the game. It's not coming out, but I thought it was weird somebody's bringing it back now. Why? I don't know why. I guess maybe Call of Duty's kind of... Well, they did a Modern Warfare Call of Duty recently, right? I was gonna say like maybe because Call of Duty's been like kind of all over the place between what they're focusing on between Black Ops and actually World War II was another one they did more recently. So, but there was a Call of Duty Modern Warfare recently too. So I don't know. I'm be curious to see if it's a game really worth playing. I probably will not play it though. As much as I'd be fine playing it, it's just not something that I particularly have a need to do, I feel like. Speaking of needing to do, if you've been following the chronicles of me and NieR Replicant version 1.22, if you didn't know, I'm a little nervous about that game. I am not a big fan of how NieR Automata turned out. And obviously that game was very successful, but I am a fan of the original NieR. So I've been a little worried that NieR Replicant, which is a remake of the original NieR that came out and on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, I was a little worried that they might do some stuff to it to make it less of the game I liked back then. And as somebody who's already played the game, at the end of the day, I can always say, I can go back and play the PlayStation 3 or 360 version, so it's not a problem per se. But I imagine this is also like where a lot of people are going to be first experiencing the original NieR. So I would like for them to kind of stay somewhat consistent with the original, especially when it comes to a lot of the level design and a lot of the game design as well. And they showed off a combat trailer, I think, at Tokyo Game Show last year. If you want to call it trailer, it was really like them just messing around with the debug menu in a field, I feel like, if I recall correctly. So apparently people were complaining about the fact that they kept just like re-releasing that footage. So they put out like a 10-minute clip of gameplay from it's like a desert environment in that game. So I think that's around like halfway through the game, if I recall correctly. My memory of that original game is a little vague. I remember there's also some things you kind of go back and revisit at times, so it might be earlier. But I was happy with what I saw for the most part. Just because it was largely what that game originally was. I do think the combat, and looking at it, I think I am liking the direction they're going with the combat. It doesn't feel like a Platinum game combat engine per se. It definitely feels a lot looser, and that it's not so much about like a enormous amount of combos. It seems like enemies still die fairly quickly, in a way that I think is more true to the original. If you don't know the original NieR, and I kind of disagree with people on this, I always kind of felt like the original NieR played more like a Zelda game, and a lot of people said it played bad. I don't particularly agree with that. I would not say the combat was good, but it was fine. Like there's nothing good or bad about it per se, outside of the unique mix of how its magic system worked, kind of thing. I think the one complaint I'd maybe have is that the magic system and the melee combat didn't really flow together super well. Something that they did kind of patch up a little bit in NieR Automata. Although the magic system isn't really a magic system in that game, it's like these little robots that kind of follow you around. But for all intents and purposes, they're kind of the same thing. And so it seems like they may have cleaned that up a little bit, like made it so it's more natural to go back between melee combat and magic. So I am glad to see that from what they've showed. It was only like 10 minutes of gameplay, and a lot of it was cutscene or like just talking to NPCs and stuff. So there was definitely. I definitely am interested in seeing more. I will definitely be picking it up whenever it comes out either way as well. But yeah, I'm glad to see it's coming together pretty well. Visually, I think it looks nice. It sounds like they're re-recording all the English audio, which I kind of expected given the fact that they are changing the protagonist to the original Japanese protagonist rather than the NieR Gestalt old man protagonist, Papa NieR. I love Papa NieR, don't get me wrong. I am probably incredibly biased against baby NieR, but I will give baby NieR his chance to make me love him. But I would rather I personally am just like, I love Papa NieR so much. Oh my god. so yeah. But yeah, it looks good, and I'm glad it seems like it's coming together. There's also the announcement of the English release date of Akiba's Trip. Hellbound and Debriefed. This is I believe from what I recall from the last time we talked about it, the English or the PSP game getting remastered for the Nintendo Switch, and I think the PlayStation 4 as well. And it was only announced for Japan before, but now it's gonna be coming to the US, and I think the summer 2021. I do really want to check this game out. But I kind of run into the issue of I also picked up Tokyo Xanadu a few years back, and I kind of feel like those games are kind of overlapping a little bit, and I have not played Tokyo Xanadu. So part of me is like, I should play Tokyo Xanadu before I pick up Akiba's Trip, Hellbound and Debriefed. Which is unfortunate, because that is a game that I feel like I want to buy and I want to support. But I do worry that if I pick it up, I will not play it for 5 to 6 years. So it does have the situation of, like, you know, PC Splash and Kanagawa Jet Girls, where the character or where the physical version is the collector's edition only, I believe. So if you want to get the standard edition, you have to buy it just digitally, or you have to buy it used, where somebody took the standard edition out of the collectors. So I don't remember what the pricing was though, but if it's anything like PC Splash and Kanagawa Jet Girls, it should be around normal pricing, if not like anywhere between, like, you know, $60 to $70 or something like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that come out, and hopefully at some point I can play Tokyo Xanadu. That's something I've always wanted to do. But things like Xenoblade Chronicles X and Final Fantasy 15 kind of always kept getting in the way, and now we're past that. But for now, my focus for now is just trying to get a lot of these games that I picked up at the end of this, or end of the last year, and trying to finish some of those off. So Megatudo, I want to get back to the second part of Jumping Flash, which essentially is just you playing through the game twice, but Jumping Flash is a short enough game that I don't really mind doing that. But anyways, video game stuff. I love video game stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling. And then there's also the announcement of a Blue Reflection anime. I don't really have anything to say about the Blue Reflection anime, but more of just wanted to comment on the fact that it's weird to me that Blue Reflection, like, seemed to suddenly get more popular or something. I don't know where this drive for Blue Reflection has come from, but it feels like over time there's been, like, more and more people I know looking into it, being interested into it. I think I know 4 or 5 people who own the game now, which is kind of, I feel like kind of crazy for the type of game it is. It's definitely more of a niche product at this point. Or I guess maybe I know even more than that, actually. Maybe 7 to 8. I don't know. But I feel like within the last 2 years, I've had 4 or 5 friends pick it up. So I'm kind of surprised. The US physical copy is actually more expensive than you'd think. Although it'd be nice if they did like a reprint or something. But yeah, I'm just kind of don't know where this interest in Blue Reflection suddenly came from. But I'm glad it's getting the attention it needs. Maybe it's like part of, Ryza 2 getting popular and people in that community being like, hey, you should check out Blue Reflection, which is, I believe, the same developers. So yeah. And that's pretty much it for game news stuff. We do have in a couple weeks here. It seems a little early to be talking about this, but maybe it's just the fact that, 2020 being what it was, E3 planning stuff started coming out. It sounds like it's gonna be digital only this year. Also Jeff Keighley and his thing. I think it's called like Summer Game Fest or something like that. Jeff Keighley's doing his thing this year. I'm not sure how I feel about how E3 went last year. I kind of felt like, because everything was so spread out, I didn't really know what was happening when and how long it would go for. So I kind of feel like I missed most of the stuff that kind of happened, unless it was like a particular big show that was like pointed out at some point, like I think Microsoft held their own thing, and then I believe Sony held something as well with the PlayStation 5 reveal. Does that timeline match up? Maybe PlayStation 5 reveal was quite a bit later. I can't remember for sure. Maybe they had something earlier than that year. But anyways, yeah, I just kind of wasn't really a huge fan of how everything was spread out. So we'll see. I heard that the Summer Game Fest is going to be more condensed, so it's going to be a shorter timeline, so that might be good. I am very excited, though, because New Game Plus Expo is happening again this year, which I really liked New Game Plus last year. That was like my favorite event. Admittedly, it kind of falls in line with my interest in some of the smaller Japanese developers at this point. So Any Creates, Axis, I think Xseed is there as well, Miss America. I don't buy a lot of those games usually, but I think that's usually the kind of games that I want to see. These days, I don't really pay too much attention to AAA stuff as much, or at least I don't really intend to play a lot of AAA stuff. I feel like for the most part, I feel okay skipping on a lot of those things. But yeah, this year is going to actually happen in March. I think it was May last year. So it's actually going to happen really early this year. So that's actually it's less than a month away. So March 4th specifically. So we'll be coming up pretty soon here. I wonder if they plan to do another one later in the year, if it's just still going to be a kind of an annual thing. So either way, I'm pretty excited for New Game Plus Expo. Don't really know what to expect out of E3 or Summer Game Fest, but I hope it is something that I feel is easier to track this year, because that's the problem I had last year. Was like I just didn't really know what was happening when with who. So yeah. And that's pretty much it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlReport.com is the website. In terms of content that went up, the Xenoblade Chronicles X casual review went up last week. So if you want to check out what I have to say about Xenoblade Chronicles X within 18 minutes, it's a longer video. That is something you can do. And then also, this upcoming week, I believe it's a Alleyway casual review going up for the Game Boy. So if you want to watch that, that will be there. And I've still been working on some stuff. I've been kind of all over the place when it comes to major projects. I've been thinking a lot about some different, things I want to do this year that might not necessarily be reviews. I remember earlier over the new year, I was kind of like, I want to focus mainly on game reviews. And I do still want to do that, but I feel like there are some smaller projects I can put together easier that I'm considering, kind of trying to put out around the year. But I don't really know how to space that stuff out. I'm really worried about burning out as well. So we'll see. I won't be able to work on any of the game scripts or the review scripts this weekend, unfortunately, or any of the scripts for any of the other videos. But I should be able to I think, start finalizing some plan for early March sometime the next couple weeks here, and figure out if I'm going to be doing the Billy review. I am reviving the Disaster Day of Crisis comparison video, because that was something I wanted to do last year and didn't get to finish up. I think that will be something that I can put together fairly quickly without too much trouble. And then, especially because it's like very specific stuff that I want to show on screen, at least for the parts that are like actually content based. And then also, I'm looking at more PCFX stuff again. I know I've mentioned last year I wanted to get back on the board with PCFX, but I think I'm doing it. I'm kind of honing in what I want to do with PCFX right now. I feel like I don't necessarily just want to do PCFX reviews, although that is something I still would like to do as with the casual reviews and things like that, unless something particularly stands out to me that I'm like, oh, I need to do a full review of this. But I think I would like to do more casual reviews. I kind of have a lot of regret about how I handled the PCFX stuff the last time I played a bunch of PCFX games, because they were largely part of the OCP Clips series, which were the like podcast clips, and I don't like those that much. At least in terms of long-term content, I didn't like those as much. So part of me wants to kind of go back and maybe refresh my memory on a few games, and then put some casual reviews together for those two, to have something that's a bit more substantial for the long-term content on the YouTube channel. But we'll see about that. It's going to probably depend on per game how easily I can just kind of pick it back up and talk about it. Something like, Zenki is going to be fairly straightforward. And then something like Battle Heat, I'll probably need to put some time back into Battle Heat, make sure I'm still up and up on how that game controls and feels. Like it's a really unique game in terms of how it feels, or at least compared to like a modern fighting game, it's very unique. So it's something I gotta kind of get a feel for again before I start trying to talk about it normally. So, but I think I might go back and try to fill some of that stuff in, and maybe delist the clips, just because I'm not super happy with them, or at least maybe not delist them, but I don't know. We'll see. Anyways, and then in terms of stream stuff this week, though, we'll be playing some more Industrial Spy Operation Espionage coming up. I played some last week. We did not finish the mission, unfortunately, so we'll be starting this week on that mission again. But because we know what we're doing, it should be pretty straightforward. And then once we finish that mission, we'll go into the final mission. Now, I do not expect that we will finish the final mission this next stream, mainly because I'm going to try it without the guide yet again, which is not going to work out. I know that's the case, but I need to give it the shot. I need to give it its chance. That is how I feel about that game at this point. Like, give the mission its chance to let me figure it out. If I cannot figure it out, then right back to the guide. So I think what's probably going to happen is we're going to go ahead and finish the next mission, or finish the current mission we're doing, try the final mission. It's a long mission, so I don't think we're going to expect to finish it either way. And then the week after that, we'll just go through the guide on that stream and just finish it that way, and then just basically wrap it up there. So yeah, and then we'll finally be able to move on. I think we might play a shooter next. I was trying to figure out something that's like shorter that we can do after Operation Espionage, and I think a shooter might feel good to do. Don't know what shooter that will be yet. I got 2 in mind that are kind of on the tip of my tongue, tip of my brain. Those 2 things. So I will let you know once we get there. That's it for this week. Thanks for coming. OneControlPort.com is the website, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.